Welcome back, America. There's no doubt that polling is showing Americans think this country's on the wrong track. And there's just so many signs, right? The anti-Semitism that breaks out on our college campuses, the open border and all the crime, fentanyl that comes across. Even the notion this last week that we just learned that China was involved with an illegal biolab in California, right in our own country, China doing that. Well, our next guest, he is stepping into the void. He wants to make a difference. He already has on the world stage as an ambassador. Today, he's running for United States Senate in Nevada. Joining us right now, Ambassador Jeffrey Gunter. Mr. Ambassador, great to have you back on the show.
It's always great to be here. Love you guys. You're doing God's work, so thank you for all you do.
Well, thank you so much. I want to start with something that I think a lot of people had no idea was going on until October 7th, when the Israel-Hamas conflict clearly awakened us that there's this anti-Semitism, this hatred, this intolerance that was like embedded in our college campuses, and not just any college, but the elite, the top, the ones that most parents dream to get their children to. What has been your perception 5 weeks in? How have college campuses, how have policymakers done in trying to beat this really bad situation back?
I think, quite honestly, the donors have spoken.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many large donors of these so-called elite universities are now petrified because they're finally standing up, stepping forward, and calling out raw and pure hatred and anti-Semitism. So thank God that those large donors have finally stood up and said, enough is enough. We're not going to give the Harvards of the world our hard-earned cash, and we're going to put an end to this. And quite frankly, this has been planned by the subtle Marxists of infiltrating our universities, our schools, our education for the last 20 years. None of this is a coincidence.
Nope.
This is the moment they've been waiting for, planning for, and sadly, we're seeing the results of that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Mr. Ambassador, you also are a medical doctor, and I wanted to ask you about that and kind of connect it to something that one of our guests said a few weeks ago, because we were talking about the relationship of this guest to others within his community. He's a professor at Harvard. And, you know, there have been certain sectors of society that have been taken over by liberalism, Hollywood, academia, media. But you look at industries like law and medicine, where you do have a lot of Jewish Americans who are successful in those industries. And one of the things that this guest said to us was he felt like he had been abandoned by his colleagues in academia. So for you in the medical industry, I wanted to ask you about that type of culture festering in medicine as well.
100%. It's so smart that you pointed out. And let me tell you, the greatest danger, and I repeat this, the greatest danger that people have not talked about is the villain that's growing in the public health sector. The ability for these individuals to push their political narratives, to push Marxism in the name of the benefit of medicine for the society is quite dangerous. And if you look at many of the adverse things that were advocated for during COVID, masks that clearly show they do not work, a vaccine which might have limited hospitalizations and mortality, but did nothing to limit the infectivity, and looking at the dangerous things that we've done to our children for generations to come, these are narratives that are coming out of the public health sector. And that public health sector is dangerous. It's full of individuals who are politicized. And I think that's something that has to be focused on currently in the media, of the danger that we see in the public health departments of wokeism, which is infiltrating it. It's no longer medicine. It's medicine, as you know, when mixed with politics, it gives you hardcore politics. And that's what we're seeing coming out of the so-called public health sectors.
Yeah, so well put. And it really is one of the challenges of our immediate future. We got to get trust back in the public health, and we got to get politics out first. Otherwise,
so well said.
Yeah, no, it's so amazing. Sir, I was looking at the polls, and I saw in Nevada, Trump up double digits already. That is a pretty remarkable earthquake in a state that Democrats often have come to rely on. Tell us the dynamics going on. It seems like one of the dynamics is both young people and Hispanics are moving towards Republicans and conservatives like yourself, like President Trump, in pretty big numbers.
I'd like to answer that in Spanish. Por supuesto. Of course they are. Their values are so in line with our conservative values. It's only the mainstream media and the rich elites that are trying to tell us throughout the media that somehow the Latinos do not share the same values that us conservatives share. It's not true. They've lived the socialist Marxist dream And that's why they came to America. And I can tell you the same thing is going on here in Nevada as well. Nevada voters will never, never, never vote for a swampy puppet like my opponent, Scam Brown. He's controlled by Mitch McConnell. They smell it, they see it, and they don't want it. And that's why they're flocking to myself, who's 110%, not just 100%, but 110% pro-Donald Trump, because quite frankly, the whole world is going to hell in a handbasket right now, and people just can't take it anymore. Like we mentioned earlier in your broadcast, fentanyl is killing our children. If you do not have a border, you do not have a country. If you have to choose between putting gas in your car and putting food and medicine for your family, what are you going to do? All this was preventable. We saw that with Donald Trump, we didn't have any of these issues. None of them. We had 1% inflation. We had 3.5% unemployment across every single demographic group. We had no endless wars. In fact, we didn't lose a single service member for 18 months. We didn't have the catastrophe that we saw in Afghanistan. We didn't see a president who was suggesting that Vladimir Putin could take a slice off Ukraine. And now we see the whole Middle East on fire and anti-Semitism spreading around the world. So there is no doubt that Donald Trump is just lighting it on fire. Nevada is Trump country. And myself, as the next U.S. Senator of Nevada, could not be more proud of the values that our voters hold and the reasons why they're propelling us to a strong position to win that seat.
Yeah. I love that. But, you know, we have to touch on a sore topic because I think internal polling has had President Trump ahead of Joe Biden for a while, but it really just broke for President Trump a few months ago with that Washington Post poll that I think sent absolute shockwaves and led to David Axelrod and some other big up Democrats who are saying that they should find a replacement for Joe Biden for the Democrat nominee. But you look at the polling and with President Trump ahead by 2 points, 4 points, 9 points, 11 points, 14 points. I know that in Nevada, there are people who have a lot of questions about election integrity. Now, the issue is that if you don't show up, if you are that skeptical of elections and you don't show up, you're forfeiting the game. So what is the status of integrity as far as Nevada's elections so we can get people to turn out to vote no matter where they fall on the spectrum?
Such a great point you brought up. First and foremost, we're having a caucus. Now, remember, the caucus means you have to have voter ID. What a concept. You have to go to the precinct where you're supposed to vote. What a concept. You have a voter day, not a voter month. What a concept. So that presidential caucus will actually be a real vote, and the winner will be Donald Trump. And then for the next 4 months after that, we're going to make sure that we actually not only beat them and get their vote, but we actually look at every legal avenue to make sure that there's great voter integrity in the state of Nevada. And it's actually, the enthusiasm is off the charts. Americans like truth. Americans want truth. They want honesty, they want voter integrity, and that's going to propel them to the ballot box like we've never seen before. So America first.
Yeah. Mr. Ambassador, real quick, we only got about 20 seconds. What's the best way for people to connect to your campaign?
drjeffgunter.com. Follow me on Twitter, and don't underestimate the great work that all you guys are doing to get the message out. Thank you for having me.
Sir, what an honor to have you on. Thanks for joining us.